Horses or camels? Discover who was the king of the Old West. When we think of the Old West, the first image that comes to mind is a rugged cowboy riding through the vast, dusty plains on horseback. Horses have long been synonymous with the American frontier, symbolizing freedom, exploration, and adventure. But what if I told you that for a brief time there was a contender for the title of King of the Old West? That contender was none other than the humble camel. In the mid-19th century, as settlers, pioneers, and soldiers moved westward, they faced enormous challenges: vast deserts, towering mountain ranges, and scorching heat. Horses and mules were the preferred method of transportation, but they struggled in such harsh conditions. Enter the idea of using camels, creatures perfectly adapted to endure extreme heat, long distances without water, and heavy loads. The U.S. Camel Corps experiment was born in 1856, spearheaded by Secretary of War Jefferson Davis. Camels were imported from the Middle East and North Africa, and the goal was to see if these desert beasts could outmatch horses and mules in the unforgiving landscapes of the American Southwest. At first, the experiment seemed promising. Camels were indeed better suited to the arid deserts, easily carrying supplies across areas where horses struggled. They needed less water, could survive on sparse vegetation, and their tough hooves allowed them to trek across rough terrain without injury. These traits made them excellent candidates for long, arduous journeys. However, camels also came with their fair share of challenges. For one, they were unfamiliar creatures in a land where horses reigned supreme. Many cowboys and soldiers were uncomfortable around them, as camels had a reputation for being temperamental, stubborn, and prone to spitting or biting when annoyed. Their large size and unusual gait made them difficult to handle, especially for those who were used to working with horses. Additionally, camels didn't integrate well with other livestock. Horses and mules were often spooked by their presence, and managing a herd that included both animals was a logistical nightmare. Though camels had undeniable advantages, the practical issues they presented began to outweigh their benefits. By the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861, the camel experiment had all but fizzled out. The animals were largely abandoned or sold off, and the U.S. Army returned to using horses and mules for its transportation needs. Though camels proved their worth in many ways, they were simply too foreign and difficult to manage in a culture built around the horse. In the end, it was the horse that won the title of King of the Old West. Horses were versatile, fast, and familiar, making them indispensable to cowboys, settlers, and soldiers alike. They became icons of Western culture, immortalized in countless movies, books, and legends. Though camels briefly challenged the horse's reign, they ultimately couldn't unseat the champion of the frontier. Today, the story of the U.S. Camel Corps is largely forgotten, a quirky footnote in the grand narrative of the American West. But for a short time, camels roamed the deserts of the Southwest, leaving their hoof prints in the sand and sparking imaginations of what might have been. So, while horses continue to hold the crown as the undisputed rulers of the Old West, it's worth remembering the brief, fascinating chapter when camels tried to claim the throne. In the battle of horses versus camels, tradition and familiarity won out, but the camel remains a curious reminder of an alternative history that could have changed the West forever.